Kia ora, good morning. Welcome to Ryan Bridge today, Wednesday, the 24th of February. Great to have your company this morning. On the show this hour, another major health data breach, changing a patient's status from alive to dead. So why is the fine for the companies that we trust with our personal information a maximum of just, wait for it, $10,000. In Australia, it's up to $50 million. The petition that's aiming to change all this and the expert on how this keeps on happening. Plus this morning, is this a Pharmac first? Kiwis could soon have greater access to skin cancer drugs. And for what is surely a first, we could get that access ahead of the Canadians and even the Brits. A leading oncologist joins me to explain how they work. And the government's announced another raft of measures to improve school achievement, but a teachers' union isn't convinced. Instead, they think the measures announced are outdated. Surprise, surprise, they'll tell us why. David Seymour versus Marama Davidson live in studio. First, Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by News Talk ZB.
Multiple cybersecurity teams are working to investigate the possible hack of another medication platform. MedMap is widely used across New Zealand, particularly in aged care, disability, hospice and community health. MedMap Director Jeffrey Sayer says unauthorised activity caused incorrect changes to some patients' demographic records. Melanoma New Zealand wants the government to take its treatment announcement a step further and commit to better screening. Pharmac's proposing to expand access to nivolumab and ipilimumab for people with stage 3B and 4 melanoma from May 1st. Melanoma NZ's Dr. Sonia Botley says it's good news, but our high skin cancer rates shows targeted national early detection screenings are needed, and she's urging all political parties to come together and recognise the need for a program and to scope out possibilities for making it happen. After 6 months of negotiations, the government's managed to strike a pay deal with primary principals. A ballot of 1,300 NZEI members returned a majority in favour. Principals will get a cumulative 2.5% immediate pay rise and another 2.1% next year. NZEI negotiation team member Stephen Lethbridge says that the benefits will flow on to children. Meanwhile, more than 12,000 allied health workers have struck a deal with Health NZ for a new collective agreement. The workers, spanning physio and occupational therapists, social workers and scientists, will receive a 2.5% pay rise backdated to December and another 2% late this year. The agreement also includes a $500 lump sum and a contractual commitment to advertise vacancies. One of two brothers jailed for murdering Rotorua toddler Nia Glassie will remain behind bars for at least another year. The 3-year-old died in 2007 after months of abuse and torture, including being put in a dryer and spun on a clothesline. Michael and Wedemu Curtis were found guilty of murder and jailed for life with 17 years non-parole. Wedemu, who was 17 at the time of Nia's death, was called before the parole board yesterday. The board declined parole and he will next appear February 2027, with Michael due to appear in July. Should grief education be taught in our schools? Funeral director John Adams led a national petition in the UK to introduce bereavement education, which was debated in Parliament and is now being shaped into cross-party policy. He's visiting New Zealand this week to share how the changes were achieved. Adams says it's about understanding what grief is and how to support people going through it.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
England have chased 165 to beat Pakistan by 2 wickets in their Super 8 match at cricket's T20 World Cup, guaranteeing a semi-final spot. New Zealand Rugby's chain of command is changing. The next All Blacks coach will report to a newly created high-performance director rather than the chief executive. Warriors assistant coach Slade Griffin is backing the depth of the club's academy system as they prepare for life without Mitch Barnett beyond this NRL league season.
Time is 3 minutes after 7. This government has made fast track, bit of a buzzword, haven't they? And we need laws quickly that go after the companies that ask for and store our personal information, and we need that to be fast-tracked. The hackers, it seems, are pretty much a mystery to us. They never get caught. If there was ever a need for better regulation and harsher penalties, it's with cases like this MedMap breach and the My Health data one before it. In New Zealand, Consumer says there is no express penalty or fine for a breach. Nada. The Privacy Commissioner has the power to issue a fine of $10,000. Yes, 10 grand. And that's only if a company doesn't report a breach or tries to hide it. The Aussies will whack you with a fine of up to 50 million Australian dollars. That makes ours look like a slap with a wet bus ticket. Companies should be scared to ask for your private information because the risk of it being nicked is evidently quite high. It keeps happening. Last week, I went shopping for some new clothes, just a couple of t-shirts, some shorts, won't bore you, but I was asked for my name, my email address and my postal address. Wasn't posting the clothes to myself, I was walking out the door with them in a bag. Why? A mailing list, no doubt. I didn't have to provide this information, but if I did, I got 10% off the clothes that I was buying. I didn't do this. I paid full price, but I couldn't leave with a receipt unless I handed over my email address. Now, businesses want our information because they can sell us more stuff. If the data they do have is stolen, though, they should have to answer under the law. The fines ought to reflect how serious the breach is. With health, there's got to be millions, surely. They should be scared, like with health and safety laws, to even ask for your personal information. It's not like this problem has suddenly sailed into port either. That's why the legislation should be fast-tracked, it needs to be bipartisan, and it needs to be tough as nails.
Herald Now weather.
Kia ora on what eventually becomes a warm Wednesday, all thanks to this high pressure that keeps things settled over the country. However, this evening, a front brings an increase in rain and wind to the far south. Temperatures in Southland today are warmer than average for the time of year and also warmer than it will be for a while, but the evening is a much wetter affair. While other areas are basking in the warmth, brisk northeasterlies in Christchurch keep temperatures in the low 20s there, though there will be plenty of sunshine. Wednesday is the picture of a summer's day with warm and sunny weather and little wind around. Northerlies develop in Wellington in the evening. That morning cloud around Wairoa and Tairawhiti Gisborne clears away to a fine day. Onshore winds keep temperatures along the east coast cooler than inland. Most areas stay warm and rain-free today, although any light showers that do form are more likely in the afternoon or evening in an easterly flow. Things also take on a slightly more humid feel as the day goes on.
Time now 6 minutes after 7. So this MedMap breach, another data breach in health. It's used in aged care, disability and hospice settings to help with managing medication. So quite important. The hack saw some patients who were still alive declared dead. Others had their names changed to Charlie Kirk. Joining us now to explain why, also what we can do about this, is cybersecurity expert Adam Burns. Adam, good morning.
Morning, Ryan. How you going?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Is this one of those hacks where they'll go and sell the information? Because it sounds like something different, or something maybe political with Charlie Kirk involved. What's your assessment?
Potentially a political hacktivist attack. There's been no mention of ransom demand. There's just been, as you said, patient names being changed to Charlie Kirk. So with that being a conservative, political name, it's potentially a political statement or, an attack from some hacktivist group. It's just, a little bit different to what we normally see.
How do you tell who's done it? Is it only if they do put out a ransom, or can you go through the back door and find out?
Generally, the only way to find out who it was is if they declare the hack themselves, and they hide behind pseudonyms. So we never really know who or where the attack came from, unless, of course, the target had some good logging switched on. But even if that's turned on, these attacks are often done behind VPNs. So tracing them is very, very difficult.
Adam, that seems crazy to me that in 2026 someone can hack into what is very personal information, important information. This is about old people and medicine. Yeah. How can that happen and we have no idea?
I mean, from my lens, I'm seeing a similar pattern repeat, and that is, if you think about the internet, it was designed a long time ago. It was built on trust. That trust is now being exploited, and it's a lot easier to exploit that now with AI. If a hacker wanted to launch a phishing campaign or an impersonation campaign, they would have had to canvass a business for a couple of weeks, figure out who the main staff are, where they're traveling, things like that. Now that can be done in the click of a button. You know, there is literally Chat GPT for hackers now, so these types of attacks are trivial.
So what could have taken you weeks or months, AI now allows you to do in hours or minutes.
Yeah, there are applications like ChatGPT designed specifically for this purpose.
Who designed them?
I don't know, but if you look up Xanthorox, that starts with an X, Xanthorox, you can just go to their website and look at the tool as if it was a standard SaaS application that you were looking to purchase. It's bizarre.
It's
This is
mind
the world
blowing.
we live in.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so basically what you're saying is this is going to happen more and more. I mean, we had our biggest data breach just 2 months ago. Now we've got another one in health.
Yeah.
So what do you, I mean, you're obviously an expert in this field. What do you do with your private information? How do you protect yourself?
So I use a password manager, so I actually don't have any idea what passwords are for anything that I log into, and I MFA everything as well. So even if someone gets my password, they still need my device for the second factor authentication. So my advice to people would be don't use the same password, multi-factor everything, use a password manager if you can. If anyone from the health industry contacts you via email or phone, don't trust that that is who they say they are. Find out where they're calling from and call them back. Just be very, very cautious of any comms from anywhere, really. Because yeah, it is the Wild West out there.
Adam, if the fine, I'm told that there is no real fine in New Zealand. In Australia, they have much harsher penalties. And there's a petition that's been started here, and I wholeheartedly support whatever petition we need to. But is it your opinion we will never really get the hackers? Like, let's give up, that ship sailed. But do you think we should have harsher penalties for people who are asking for our data?
100%. I think the current fine of $10,000 is nowhere enough of a deterrent to put people off. And if someone does get fined, there's not much of a deterrent for them to not pick it up and do it again because the fine is so small. It's basically like you say, a slap on the wrist. We need to increase the powers of the OPC and raise these fines to that of overseas, where we're way behind in this area.
Adam, really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for being with me. Adam Burns, cybersecurity expert from Black Veil Security. It is 12 minutes after 7. Now, if you've got feedback for us this morning, flick us an email. We won't spam you back. Ryan@nzherald.co.nz. That's Ryan@nzherald.co.nz. And we will share, full disclosure, your feedback with the rest of our audience this morning. Right, the British government has approved the release of secret documents on the former Prince Andrew and his role as a trade envoy. Business Minister Chris Bryant says it's the least they can do for the victims of abuse, describing Mountbatten Windsor as rude, arrogant and entitled. Have a look at this in the House of Commons.
Colleagues and many civil servants have told me their own stories of their interactions with Mr Mountbatten Windsor, and they all betray the same pattern. A man on a constant self-aggrandising and self-enriching hustle. A rude, arrogant and entitled man who could not distinguish between the public interest, which he said he served, and his own private interest.
Yeah, so this guy's not holding back. They had a big back and forth in the House of Commons overnight. He went on to recount a story about when Andrew met some sea cadets.
They were absolutely delighted and excited to meet a member of the royal family. But he insisted on coming by helicopter, unlike his mother, who came twice to the Rhondda and always came by car. He left early and he showed next to no interest in the young people. That is, of course, Mr. Speaker, not a crime, nor is arrogance, fortunately, I suppose.
Yeah, so what they're debating at the moment is whether to release those documents, because the word is that Mandelson, by the way, arrested, now released back home, but Mandelson helped keep Andrew in his trade envoy job, and both of them had links obviously to Epstein. We know that through the emails. So that's all going to kick off today. 14 minutes after 7 to Mexico we go, where they have deployed 10,000 troops to stop the violence that erupted after the killing of the drug lord El Mencho. Things have quietened down across the country after the cartel that unleashed the wave of violence after the death of their boss has been somewhat subdued. Even though relative calm has returned, most businesses and schools remain closed and travel warnings remain in place. El Mencho has a $15 million reward on his head, and in the operation to take him down, 27 members of Mexico's security forces were killed, along with 46 suspected cartel members. Right, back home now, Kiwis could soon have access to better skin cancer drugs in a move that'll see New Zealand potentially ahead of the UK and Canada in treating melanoma. Pharmac is widening access to 2 drugs which could stop melanoma from returning and cut the number of hospital visits that's needed. Dr. Rosalie Stevens is Melanoma New Zealand board member and oncologist and joins us this morning in Auckland. Dr. Rosalie, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell us what these drugs do?
So these drugs are called a type of immunotherapy, and they intend to kickstart the immune system so that a patient's own immune cells recognise a melanoma tumour and eradicate that tumour. So the purpose or the intent is to treat not just the tumour that you can see, but treat the whole body.
Wow, so it kind of encourages you to fight your own cancer.
Yep, that's right.
And how do you need both drugs? Like, is one useless without the other?
You ideally need both. So the best standard of care that we know about internationally is to use both. We currently use one. That was a funding decision that was made by Pharmac last year, and that's pretty good. But this news is even better because it, as you said, it puts us up there at the frontier, providing the best possible standard, because we think that the combination is a better kickstart, and we think that the combination means that you can limit the duration of treatment. So that's why clinicians are really pleased with this news.
Yeah, what is it? You said the duration. What would it mean for a patient? Because this is late stage melanoma, right?
It's late stage in that it's melanoma that has spread. So that most commonly will be to lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes that can be removed surgically. But in the best case scenario, patients could have just 6 weeks of treatment before their surgery, and that's it, and have a very good chance of being free from melanoma in the future, effectively being cured with just 6 weeks of treatment.
Wow. And that's no chemo?
That's no chemo. Yeah,
wow.
That's right. Chemo doesn't work very well for melanoma. We're best to approach it by the immune system, the immune response.
How crazy is it? I spoke to one of your colleagues this morning. How crazy is it that we're talking about potentially being ahead of other countries in funding drugs?
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice place to be. And I think that this was a clinician initiated proposal, but I think we should feel proud that Pharmac have shown real engagement and responsiveness to that proposal. And I think that's a really positive aspect of this announcement.
Really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for being with me. That's Dr. Rosalie Stevens, Melanoma New Zealand board member and oncologist, on that Pharmac funding decision. Well, by the way, it is out for consultation, so they have until March to submit some proposals or submit some feedback, and then Pharmac will make a final decision. Time now for a quick break. When we come back, the ACT leader David Seymour and Marama Davidson from the Greens are here to debate politics.
Know more of the story with Herald Premium, giving you full access to in-depth news, opinion and analysis, with more world news, business insights, and investigative reports from our world-class team of journalists. Plus subscriber-only functionality to comment on stories, access newspaper e-editions, gift articles, and enjoy crosswords and puzzles. Subscribe now to Herald Premium.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build the GJs because they're good quality that they always provide us.
They've helped us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, Kaylee Bell, Jelly Roll, Megan Moroney, Chris Stapleton. All the country stars have come to play on the all-new iHeart Country NZ. Your new home for country is iHeart Country NZ.
Just gone 20 after 7. Great to have your company this morning. Time for our political panel on your Wednesday morning. We're joined at the desk, which is so refreshing. Greens co-leader Marama Davidson is here. Morena, good morning.
Morena, morena.
Good to see you. And ACT leader David Seymour is with us in Auckland this morning as well. Good morning to you. Hey, let's start with New Zealand first, actually. What a great place to start. So a lot of talk about him, David, in the last little while about racism and the stuff that he's been saying in the House. Do you think what he's saying is racist?
Well, I disagree that a person should be somehow pulled down for their background. What we saw was a criticism of Te Anau Tuiono saying, well, because he's from Rarotonga, he shouldn't be able to question something. I think that's wrong. But I make a second point, is that too many people have been throwing around this epithet racism, often to people who are nothing of the sort, that it's lost all its meaning. So I'm not going to get into whether he's racist because unfortunately certain people have made that a meaningless term. But do I think anyone should ever be pulled down or told that their views don't count or they're invalid because of where they're born? No, in this case, the guy's been elected to Parliament and he should have the same rights as anyone else.
So, Marama, given that your party has called it racist, Labor's called it racist, you wouldn't work with Winston Peters, surely?
Oh, he's a desperate person who is trying to disguise the fact that his government have made things worse for cost of living. So he's now desperately pulling at insults and behaviour not becoming of the House, actually. Fancy pulling on a proud Cook Island, Aituan, actually, the Cook Islanders will correct me, Aituan Māori, born in New Zealand. So not only is he racist, but he's incorrect in his facts. So all of it is an attempt at a Trumpian distraction away from the fact that he has not made life better for New Zealanders.
So take his oxygen away, rule out ever working with him or working with a government he's a part of.
I think our members will send a really clear message that he's not even worthy of being in Parliament, let alone working with
What's
Greens.
your preference, Marama? I know the Green members have final say, but what's your preference?
Yeah, my preference and my work and my focus is on ensuring that the Greens get the biggest support, the biggest say, so that we can decide who we work with for people and planet.
And your preference would be to not ever work with that guy?
That would absolutely be my preference, but that is up to the members.
All right. Let's talk about the RMA reform. David, did you see this release from Horticulture New Zealand?
Yeah.
They're saying that they're actually really worried that the RMA reform could be worse for them than the current legislation that we've got. Do they have a point?
They do, as it's currently drafted, and that's why in the last couple of weeks Simon Court, who is one of ACT's MPs who's been instrumental in getting this law drafted, has been meeting with Hort NZ, meeting with the federated farmers and saying, okay, I can see what you're saying, but this was only ever a first draft. There are parts of the RMA, which, it's 780 pages of legislation.
It's a big beast.
Yeah, so it goes before a select committee for 6 months. And the whole point is that people can point things like this out. So Chris Bishop has already come out and said, look, some people think that this somehow creates a water tax. That will not happen. If you think that can happen, and you're right, we will change it.
Right.
It's never been our
So it's just a bit of a dodgy first draft.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. I mean, you look at the Resource Management Act, it's been there since 1991. In my view, it's the biggest drag or handbrake on young New Zealanders getting homes and jobs being created and developing our country and building new roads and getting pumping stations so there's no sewage on the sea. You know, the RMA is it. 35 years, nobody did anything. David Parker took 5 years to come up with a version which would have made it worse in many respects.
All right.
We've now produced something in 2 years, and to take some
flaws.
There's no question that
okay.
first draft
Fair enough.
is improvement.
I'm glad. At least you're honest about it.
My point is, I think it's unfair to say it's dodgy.
Okay, right. Well, I won't say dodgy,
It's been done incredibly well under huge pressure, and we'll polish off the last bits. It'll be great.
All right. Marama, you convinced?
So it's never good, to build over our super soil land that grows our kai. And it appears that this RMA development from this government is a development at all costs. We've all agreed that the RMA chunky wonky law needed some improvement and needed some change, yes. But we've really got to think about what's at risk here. And, you know, I'm from South Auckland. We have miles of gardens in the South Auckland that grow our healthy kai. So I'm really clear that we can protect our growing soils while building better quality, medium density for people to be connected to transport and, yes, better water infrastructure to be surrounded by schools and the places they work. There is a way for us to do that while also protecting our living environment
Ryan,
and our soils.
All right, I want to move on to MedMap.
But with respect, Ryan, I read through the Hort NZ press release that you sent to both of us.
Yes,
that's not their concern.
No, but this is Marama's concern,
right.
and I think that's what she expressed,
which is not in play with this part of the law at all.
Right.
Anyway, I just
well, I mean, she can make a point. Let's talk about MedMap because I want to get onto this. This is something that our viewers are very worried about because I know the last health hack that we had, how concerned they were.
Yep.
So apparently, it's the fine is 10 grand at the moment. If you're a company that has data stolen, the maximum, the fine is up to 10 grand, and that's only really if you hide something or fail to tell them or fail to report the breach. David, you've said we need to quickly do something about this. How quickly and what?
Well, first of all, just a couple of things. This is a private company. The government's role is to be almost like a sort of umbrella over cyber threats and cyber security in New Zealand. Your question is how quickly and what do we do that? All I can say is that this has been discussed quite high up in government, even in the last couple of weeks before this happened. So I wish I could tell you exactly what. In some ways, it's some of the things we'll never say because we don't want the bad people to know what our plans are. But I can assure you that the government recognises this is a problem. I think we're behind some of our comparator countries out there, and we need to do better at it, and we will.
But forget the bad guys for a second, because. And the companies that are asking for our data, like MedMap, should they face higher penalties, much higher penalties, if our stuff gets stolen?
Well, that's one of the possibilities. There's no question. I'm not saying
because the Aussies apparently it's like up to $50 million if you are the company that's responsible for or oversees a breach.
And that's one of the things that we're working on.
Okay.
People have a right to give data to a company. It's a free society.
Totally.
But also, once you start doing that in a way that's not tight, it opens up the whole country to threats from foreign actors who may want to attack us and use our data to disrupt our way of life and so on. So what is the responsibility of government versus the private company? And should there be some sort of code and some sort of incentive to follow it so you don't put a whole country at risk? That's exactly the sort of thing we're dealing with.
Marama, you know I'm not big on regulation. It's never been my go-to button. But in something like this, I'm all for it. I think you've got to regulate and you've got to make sure the fines scare the bejesus out of companies so that they either don't ask for your information or they guard it with their life. Do you agree?
Absolutely. So let's go back a step. We're handing over public infrastructure and critical services to private companies. This is under a government who have gutted, particularly in the health space, where they've had to fire their own IT and data specialists. What oversight is there also of the criteria of the minimum cybersecurity standards, Ryan? These are questions that people deserve, because I want to acknowledge the people for whom their data has been breached and has been shared. That's a serious problem, and in the context of a government constantly cutting funding, infrastructure like this stuff starts to fall down. So what are the cybersecurity minimum standards, and what are the accountability measures for when this happens? It's happened a couple of times now recently,
these
especially
are private,
in health.
Yes, but these are private companies, which I think is to your point. David, the Herald, I'm just being told, understands that you were affected by this breach. Are you aware of that? Is that true?
No, I wasn't affected by it. There was some people, allegedly the hackers changed the name of some people to my name. I just think that's a sick joke. I'm not going to give any oxygen to it. I'm more concerned about the people whose loved ones or parents may have been in these retirement villages and affected by that.
Do you have any idea why anyone would do something like that?
No, I don't understand why you would want to hack into someone else's data and invade their privacy in the first place, but I guess I'm not a cyber criminal.
Have you been given any update on whether this is a local hacker or an international hacker?
Look, I haven't been briefed on it up to the minute. I just know the basic outline that's widely circulated.
Okay. All right, I appreciate you both coming on the show this morning.
Good to see you,
and
Ryan.
good to have you in the studio as well.
Good to see your real face.
Come back anytime. Greens co-leader Marama Davidson and ACT leader David Seymour. Let's go to Neva with news.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Multiple cybersecurity teams are working to investigate the possible hack of another medication platform. MedMap is widely used across New Zealand, particularly in aged care, disability, hospice and community health. MedMap Director Jeffrey Sayer says unauthorised activity caused incorrect changes to some patients' demographic records. Melanoma New Zealand wants the government to take its treatment announcement a step further and commit to better screening. Pharmac's proposing to expand access to nivolumab and ipilimumab for people with stage 3B and 4 melanoma from May 1st. Melanoma NZ's Dr. Sonia Bodley says it's good news, but our high skin cancer rates shows targeted national early detection screenings are needed, and she's urging all political parties to come together and recognise the need for a program and to scope out possibilities for making it happen. After 6 months of negotiations, the government's managed to strike a pay deal with primary principals. A ballot of 1,300 NZEI members returned a majority in favour. Principals will get a cumulative 2.5% immediate pay rise and another 2.1% next year. NZEI negotiation team member Stephen Lethbridge says that the benefits will flow on to children. Meanwhile, more than 12,000 allied health workers have struck a deal with Health NZ for a new collective agreement. The workers, spanning physio and occupational therapists, social workers and scientists, will receive a 2.5% pay rise backdated to December and another 2% late this year. The agreement also includes a $500 lump sum and a contractual commitment to advertise vacancies. One of two brothers jailed for murdering Rotorua toddler Nia Glassie will remain behind bars for at least another year. The 3-year-old died in 2007 after months of abuse and torture, including being put in a dryer and spun on a clothesline. Michael and Wedimu Curtis were found guilty of murder and jailed for life with 17 years non-parole. Wedimu, who was 17 at the time of Nia's death, was called before the parole board yesterday. The board declined parole and he will next appear February 2027, with Michael due to appear in July. Should grief education be taught in our schools? Funeral director John Adams led a national petition in the UK to introduce bereavement education, which was debated in Parliament and is now being shaped into cross-party policy. He's visiting New Zealand this week to share how the changes were achieved. Adams says it's about understanding what grief is and how to support people going through it.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
England have chased 165 to beat Pakistan by 2 wickets in their Super 8 match at cricket's T20 World Cup, guaranteeing a semi-final spot. New Zealand Rugby's chain of command is changing. The next All Blacks coach will report to a newly created high-performance director rather than the chief executive. Warriors assistant coach Slade Griffin is backing the depth of the club's academy system as they prepare for life without Mitch Barnett beyond this NRL league season.
26 minutes away from 8 o'clock now. Later today, you will hear about Trump in his State of the Union address, and boy, does he have a hill to climb with this address, because there's a CNN poll out this morning and it ain't great for Trump. So if you look at independence, of course, very important if you want to win some midterms coming up in November. So if you look at the independents in the CNN poll, approval is now at a new low, just 26%. Overall, only 32% of Americans think he has the right priorities. 61% of Americans overall think he is moving the country in the wrong direction. So that is a hill he has to climb. His approval rating, you may be unsurprised to hear this, among American Latino voters is dropped 19 points. That is a very big, sharp fall. Americans under the age of 45, so young people, an 18-point drop for them too. So Latinos and young Americans turning away from Trump. They want him to talk about the cost of living. They want him to talk about the economy rather than things like Greenland.
Herald Now weather.
Kia ora on what eventually becomes a warm Wednesday, all thanks to this high pressure that keeps things settled over the country. However, this evening, a front brings an increase in rain and wind to the far south. Temperatures in Southland today are warmer than average for the time of year, and also warmer than it will be for a while, but the evening is a much wetter affair. While other areas are basking in the warmth, brisk northeasterlies in Christchurch keep temperatures in the low 20s there, though there will be plenty of sunshine. Wednesday is the picture of a summer's day, with warm and sunny weather and little wind around. Northerlies develop in Wellington in the evening. That morning cloud around Wairoa and Tairawhiti Gisborne clears away to a fine day. Onshore winds keep temperatures along the east coast cooler than inland. Most areas stay warm and rain-free today, although any light showers that do form are more likely in the afternoon or evening in an easterly flow. Things also take on a slightly more humid feel as the day goes on.
Right, it is time now to talk business thanks to our partners Forsyth Bar. Newly constructed townhouses are taking so long to sell that they'll no longer count as new builds. This is according to a new report from Business Desk out this morning. It's not funny. Sort of is. Garth Bray, host of Herald Now Business with me. Garth, how long is too long?
Yeah, right. And this is the question, I suppose, because we know there's quite a number of townhouses out there. Hard to get the hard numbers on this, obviously, because nobody wants to talk about what isn't selling. But this is a great little piece from Maria Slade, the property editor down at Business Desk, who's picked up that because a new build is defined as a home, that's received its code compliance certificate, and it's within the past 6 months. It's never been lived in, so you can't rent it out and generally have to buy it straight from the developer. And obviously there's big stocks of that sitting around. I think we've got a chart there that sort of shows what sort of numbers of consents there. Townhouses, flats and units were the main contributors to the rise in consents towards in the year ended October 2025. And you can see there sort of half of what is getting consented at any given time. And you can see back in time there a couple of years, big blip, right? Takes about a year, you've got to start building. It might, between when you get your consent to build and then when you've got to start, then you've got to, maybe a year to finish it. And then, you've got this huge bunch of stock on the market there that's just not really moving because we know that the property market hasn't seen that sort of growth. There's not the FOMO out there, so people aren't rushing. And so, but they're aging out. They get to the point where they don't qualify for those slightly loan-to-value ratios the banks impose. They qualify if they're a new build for more preferential or free and easy lending. So it's a bit of a problem, I suppose, for some of those people that are out shopping around. Although we are seeing more come onto the market, it's probably a bigger problem for developers who are sitting on this stock that now they're going to have to look to, your mum and dad investors, or maybe even your build to rent rental market kind of thing, to try and soak up some of that demand. So that might just further kind of hold things back. So a little, a lot more detail in that piece, well worth a read.
Now, Meta, I had a look at the story this morning. It seems to be another one of these, the AI, the circle goes round and round with the chip makers and the AI firms.
Basically, it's like people are getting it. So AMD, which makes chips, a bit like NVIDIA, not as big and successful. They're on a tear. They've just, when I last looked, I think their stock price was trading up about 10% intraday, sort of before close of market. And so basically they have done a deal where where Meta will buy more of their chips to diversify away from NVIDIA, which reports its quarterlies tomorrow by coincidence, or maybe not. And in return, they get the right to buy some of AMD's shares, an option, at like a penny a share, if those shares triple in value over the next 5 years. So basically you've got a chip maker that's buying customers by giving them an option to buy its shares, and a company, Meta, that's getting itself more closely tied to this thing being more and more profitable. It's all a bit circular, like you say, and it's part of the reason, I suppose, that some investors have been a bit spooked. The other reason, there was this blog post, basically, Citrini Research, little one-man band, that put out a pretty provocative post over the weekend saying that AI could hypothetically push US unemployment rates, I think, over 10% by 2028, just because you'd see, fewer jobs, less consumer spending, more companies spending more on AI to try and get the lift. And that spooked a lot of people.
Freaked everyone out,
Freaked
right?
everybody out. Sell off. Anyway, there's a wee chart there from the Financial Times that sort of shows, though, how software is performing versus energy and utilities. You look back a year, your software stocks are actually, as a group on the S&P 500, are quite a way down. But your energy stocks, your utility stocks, people are going, oh, what can I back?
Safe harbour.
Yeah, a bit of a safe harbour.
Now, finally this morning we have some news about the preferred vehicle maker for the SAS.
Yeah, well, this is always for the big boys toys crowd, I suppose. We've got a wee picture of this. This is the Supercat, I think it's called the Extrema. This one's actually been around in production and I think in use by the SAS here for a couple of years. I think 2017, 2018 they started. But there's a group called the Taranaki Alliance, which is basically the local regional council. It's a development agency, Venture Taranaki, getting some seed funding for some local businesses to get together and sign a memorandum of understanding with Supercat UK, that makes that thing, mostly in Australia.
It's a beast.
To say, if you would buy more of these for the New Zealand Defence Force, well, then this group of businesses down in Taranaki can service them, maintain them, maybe make some components for them and all this kind of thing. And we know that defence spending is probably going to be on a lift because the world's looking like a slightly shakier place. And there might be a bit more preference in some of these deals for, hey, we've got a local arm that can support them. And obviously as well, it just makes sense probably for resilience to have a local maker of components and so on.
They look like they need a good service, those things, don't they?
With these things, there's always some kind of complication.
So that's a British company, but they're manufactured in Australia.
I think they make the ones for New Zealand and Australia, I think, and so they're looking at sort of onshoring some of the backup to it potentially. Cool. But look, good little story for Taranaki Alliance, and they say they've got a few more deals in the pipeline, not defence, but other kinds of things. They need to do something other than just sort of get the gas, because that's coming to an end.
No, it is. Brilliant. Garth, good to see you as always. That's Garth Bray, Herald Now business host. Now, thanks to our partners, Forsyth Bar. Garth will be back later in the program at about 8:45 with updates. We've got half year from Meridian, EBOS Group, plus we've got full year from Christchurch Airport, a whole bunch of stuff. So he'll be back shortly, 18 away from 8. Our young people are slipping through the cracks when it comes to mental health. New data from the Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission shows more young people are experiencing mental health distress, but fewer of them are seeking professional help for it. Karen Osborne is the CEO of Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission, joins us this morning. Karen, good morning.
Morena, Ryan.
So what's going on with young people? Is there no help available? Or are they just not going to seek it if more of them are in distress?
Yeah, so look, this new report gives the latest updates on how we're going in terms of access to mental health and addiction services. So there's some good news in here. So we're seeing overall more people are accessing specialist mental health services, and many more people are accessing primary and community services. Wait times are improving, and that's largely due to improvements in workforce. But look, we're particularly concerned about our young people, the sort of 19 to 24 age group. So we're seeing that many more of those people are able to access those primary services, but fewer are being seen in specialist mental health and addiction services. So look, we know that youth mental distress rates are increasing. That's been a longer term trend. And so it is really important that we have those early intervention options for people, but also they can access the services and supports when they need them.
So Karen, actually what you're saying is, and let's put young people aside for a second, for most people, well, for the overall population, specialist and primary both getting better access to, great.
Yes.
Good news.
Good.
Finally.
It is.
Good.
It is.
Yay.
And it's largely due to workforce. And so seeing
we've got more people.
Really more people in services. So those initiatives that have been put in place to reduce the number of vacancies, recruit more staff, have new different types of roles, including peer support workers, that's making a difference, and we can see that.
Hallelujah. When do you see that, or when would you expect to see that or carry on into people actually feeling better and, us seeing fewer self-harm and suicide stats, stuff like that? How long does it take?
Yeah, look, it takes time. There's no doubt about that. So what we're seeing is these really early signs of that shift. So those bigger issues around suicide and self-harm, those are big complex issues that have multiple drivers. Not all about access to services, but that certainly makes a difference, in particular for crisis services. So it will take time, but what we are seeing for our young people is that there seems to be some barriers to access to those specialist services. So a lot more options for them in community, primary, online options, but just we need to understand more about what those barriers are to getting access to those specialist services.
What do you suspect it is for the young people, Karen? Is it that they don't like going to see someone in person? Do you need to have a specialist appointment that's on Zoom, or I don't know? You can probably do that already, can you?
Yes, you can. And look, we know young people want different options than the traditional options. So more online options, more options that are community-based, that have youth peer support workers as part of the service options, that young people also want kaupapa Māori, Pacific, Asian options that are going to better meet their needs. So there's a bit more work to do to understand what those barriers are and how we can really lift those access further.
Karen, appreciate your update this morning. Thank you. Karen Osborne, who is the Chief Executive at Mental Health and Wellbeing Commission. Time is 14 minutes away from 8. Isn't it good to have some good news in that space for once? Time for a quick break. When we come back, the government wants to lift student achievement, but the teachers' union, wait for it, they're not happy. They say yesterday's announcement is old-fashioned and low quality. We'll ask why next.
Stop paying the waiting tax. The money you could miss out on by delaying the start of your investment journey. Up your tempo with Tempo, the guided investment app that helps you get started. Don't delay because you don't think you have enough time, money, or know-how. All you need is a goal, and our guidance will help with the rest. You can do it. We can help. Here's how. Download Tempo now.
Hip-hop and R&B. Flavor.
Here she is. How's the business going?
Good, actually. We just switched to 2 degrees. Well, we tested the networks and couldn't see any difference. But 2 degrees has the most satisfied customers. With Flex, we get instant control of phone plans, data usage, and cost center reporting. And they're the fastest growing business network.
Can I have what she's having?
Ready?
One Roof Property. Love where you live.
New Zealand Herald. News worth knowing.
Welcome back. Just gone 12 minutes away from 8 o'clock. Remember yesterday we spoke about how there will likely be a bunch of companies, maybe even a bunch of countries, who line up and try and get a refund from Trump for his tariffs that the Supreme Court said were illegal. Well, sure enough, yesterday or overnight, FedEx is doing exactly that. So FedEx in America is suing the Trump administration. They haven't said exactly how much for yet, but the total amount of tariffs collected under what the regime that the Supreme Court now says was basically illegal, 175 billion US dollars. And FedEx is saying, well, I want my refund, please, for the full amount that I paid that I shouldn't have. So although he's put new tariffs on, the Supreme Court has very clearly said that tariffs and taxes are the job of Congress, not the job of the Oval Office. Thank you very much. Now, a woman wanted for allegedly defrauding a Christchurch rugby club before fleeing the country has been arrested in Wales. Claire Sherwood, News Talk ZB South Island News Director, has the details. Claire, good morning. How did this come about?
Good morning. Yes, this is quite the story. And those in Christchurch, Ryan, likely know the name Nicola Flint. Being Christchurch, it's one of those situations where someone knows someone who is somehow connected to this story. Nicola Flint is a woman who's a mother of two and has effectively been living in the UK for some time now. Her move to the UK came about after she allegedly defrauded the Christchurch Football Club, a very popular rugby club here in Christchurch, of more than $100,000. And the total that she's allegedly responsible for defrauding ANZ Bank, her employer, totals $80,000. So there's $180,000 of alleged fraud here by this woman. The story is that she lied to friends, faked a terminal cancer diagnosis, and gone to extensive lengths in order to do that. Plasters on her hands, meeting friends at the hospital for coffee because she was there to receive treatment, and so on and so forth. It all came sort of unraveling, allegedly, for Nicola once the football club notified police that they believed that they had been defrauded. From there on in, police investigated. Her friends say not quickly enough. However, charges were laid against Nicola Flint sometime later. The trouble is, before that, she'd fled overseas with her husband and children, left her dogs in some kennels here, and was nowhere to be seen. Since then, our newsroom, the Herald's Annalise, has completed a podcast for A Moment in Crime about Nicola's story, speaking with some of her friends who obviously are dealing with a situation where they've been fooled by someone for some years, in total about 7 or 8 years. And as a result, we found out late yesterday that Nicola Flint has now been arrested in Wales, allegedly living under a different name, in fact, running a business under that name. And the irony is offering services around debt management and financial services. The website for that business has quickly disappeared, and we're waiting for further updates from the UK. Of course, the question is, will she be extradited to return to Christchurch or New Zealand to face the charges? We do have an extradition order and agreement in place with the UK. The ins and outs of that, though, remain in the hands of the UK courts. And of course, there are options for that to be declined. So we're sitting here waiting to see what will happen. I know that her former friends here in Christchurch are very keen to see her return, keen to check on the well-being of her husband and children, and keen to see her face court on what she has allegedly done.
All right, Claire, what about this museum and the cost blowout?
I'm constantly bragging about how good Christchurch is, Ryan, as you know, but a lot of our big projects are costing a lot of money. And the museum has been shut now for coming up 3 years, and we now have yet another cost blowout for the redevelopment of that. They need a further $15 million. That's due to construction costs and inflation, among other things. But it leaves the shortfall at more than $90 million. The Christchurch or Canterbury Museum team, of course, want to close that gap with funding from central government and council, both of which have previously said they're not keen to shell out more money. So we are now in a situation where the Canterbury Museum could well be heading down the same route as the Christchurch Cathedral, which would be yet another sore on Christchurch's post-quake recovery.
Claire, thank you very much for that. Appreciate your time this morning. Claire Sherwood, News Talk ZB South Island News Director. Time is 8 minutes away from 8. Right, in news just in, Scott Robertson's picked up his first job since being dumped from the All Blacks. Razor's been named to coach the Barbarians for their games against South Africa in Wales in June. The Barbars are a team made up of players from different countries that play exhibition games, mostly against international sides. Razor's already coached them 4 times in the past. And to Turkey now, where this might be the story of the day. A footballer has saved a seagull with emergency CPR. Check it out.
Muhammed Smarty'e vurdu. Çok ilginç bir an.
So oh, good on him. The seagull goes down after being hit by the ball. Captain of one of the teams runs over, starts CPR. After a few minutes, the gull starts breathing again, carried from the field, suffered a damaged wing, but otherwise made a full recovery. There you go. Right, new science kits are on the way for primary school students to help teachers deliver more interactive lessons. The government's also funding new writing resources for 10 to 16-year-olds, as well as new digital maths textbooks, aimed at helping those who are behind catch up. And believe me, as the stats show, there's a lot of kids that need to catch up. President of the Post-Primary Teachers Association, Chris Abercrombie, joins me now. Chris, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, more resources for teachers, more resources for students. Are we happy?
Well, look, we're always happy that we're getting more resources. It seems an odd announcement when a lot of the stuff was already decided last year, the science kits. I remember having a meeting about that midway through last year. So seems all interesting that it's all happening now.
Why is that interesting?
Well, it's just wondering why these delays in announcements. We were promised these math resources mid-January and they've just been announced now. We've been promised different things at different times and there's all these delays in it. So it's just a really interesting time.
You were promised them mid-January this year?
Yeah.
And you're getting them, it's been announced late Feb. I mean, is that shocking?
Well, considering kids have been at school for a while and teachers have been planning their lessons from last year and all this space. It's a real concern when it seems a real lack of understanding how schools work. Schools will be making decisions now for next year. And so to be getting resources midway through sort of a month late, or in this case, and then when classes already started, it's a real disruption.
Okay. And Chris, how long have you needed these resources? How long have these resources been needed by kids?
Well, with the new curriculum, needed sooner than later. Our Year 9s are going to be the first new cohort through the Year 11 NCA program. That curriculum isn't even finalised or written yet. We've got the other parts of the curriculum haven't been finalised yet. And so we're trying to get kids ready for a system that we don't know anything about. And so it's really difficult. So we need the resources 6 months ago.
Do you think it would be better to wait to stick with the terrible results that we have been getting, or to actually move quickly, try to change something? Because I think this is the question that parents grapple with is, I hear what you're saying, in an ideal world, you'd have the resources before, the cart would come before the horse, etc.
We'd have the tools for the job before we started the job, yeah, in the ideal world we would have that.
Yes, but if the job we were doing was a bit crap, are we not better to move quickly and try and fix it?
No one's saying we shouldn't move quickly. What we're saying is you can't do both. You can't go quickly and not have the tools, because you end up with poorer outcomes at that point, in my opinion. And so what we need is to make sure everyone's on board, everyone's on the same hymn sheet. The ministry's hitting their own deadlines. These aren't pressures we've put on them. This is their deadlines that they're putting out. And so it's really important they hit them. Otherwise, things are going to get delayed, and that's going to cause more disruption.
All right, Chris, appreciate your time this morning as always. Thanks for being with me. Chris Abercrombie, who's the president of the Post-Primary Teachers Association, the PPTA. Time is 3 away from 8. Yesterday, Chris Hipkins was talking to us about, well, a couple of things, including interest deductibility. We asked him some questions about that, and I think he gave away just a smidge of an answer. We're going to speak to some landlords about that shortly. And also, we are talking ash and vaping. Are we better off to have people just smoking durries, or should we at least have some of them on the vapes? We asked that question too. It's coming up to 8 o'clock.
Term deposit rates are falling, but your returns shouldn't. Speak to a Forsyth Barr investment advisor about alternative strategies, their benefits and risks, and how they can help you meet your investment goals. Forsyth Barr, investment advice.
lot of radio shows like to say they're with you in the morning.
Here at The Hits, we like to go the extra mile.
Not all of us get to experience this.
Come on, you're running late.
It's going to be a great day today, babes. I can feel it. Spit. You see, when we say we're with you, we actually mean it.
Oh, don't forget Sarah, who's got social netball tonight. And Mark's working late again.
Jono and Ben with you in the morning and anytime on iHeartRadio. On The Hits.
Hey, Dad.
What's up? What's up?
You know that's from the 90s, right?
So's this fuel price. 6 cents off per litre on the Gallop, even on top of discount day.
That's what's up.
Download the Gallop. What's up?
Kia ora, good morning. Welcome to Ryan Bridge today. It's Wednesday, the 24th of February. Great to have your company on the show this hour. Could landlords be funding Labor's election promises? Are they planning to roll back interest deductibility for those who own property? We take a look at what it could mean for property investors and tenants shortly. Health New Zealand has given away thousands of free vapes despite a trial showing its success rate for quitting nicotine is under 50%. So is it the right plan? We look at this morning also. And what should you do if you're made redundant? Job seekers are at their highest number in a decade, and we'll be joined by a careers expert to tell you what you should and shouldn't do to get yourself back into work. Plus, this what appears to be, according to an expert on this program this morning, a political hack of our health data, including David Seymour's name. More updates on that shortly. First, Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Multiple cybersecurity teams are working to investigate the possible hack of another medication platform. MedMap is widely used across New Zealand, particularly in aged care, disability, hospice and community health. MedMap Director Jeffrey Sayer says unauthorised activity caused incorrect changes to some patients' demographic records. Melanoma New Zealand wants the government to take its treatment announcement a step further and commit to better screening. Pharmac's proposing to expand access to nivolumab and ipilimumab for people with stage 3B and 4 melanoma from May 1st. Melanoma NZ's Dr. Sonia Bodley says it's good news, but our high skin cancer rates shows targeted national early detection screenings are needed. And she's urging all political parties to come together and recognise the need for a program and to scope out possibilities for making it happen. After 6 months of negotiations, the government's managed to strike a pay deal with primary principals. A ballot of 1,300 NZEI members returned a majority in favour. Principals will get a cumulative 2.5% immediate pay rise and another 2.1% next year. NZEI negotiation team member Stephen Lethbridge says that the benefits will flow on to children. Meanwhile, more than 12,000 allied health workers have struck a deal with Health NZ for a new collective agreement. The workers, spanning physio and occupational therapists, social workers and scientists, will receive a 2.5% pay rise backdated to December and another 2% late this year. The agreement also includes a $500 lump sum and a contractual commitment to advertise vacancies. One of two brothers jailed for murdering Rotorua toddler Nia Glassie will remain behind bars for at least another year. The 3-year-old died in 2007 after months of abuse and torture, including being put in a dryer and spun on a clothesline. Michael and Widimu Curtis were found guilty of murder and jailed for life with 17 years non-parole. Widimu, who was 17 at the time of Nia's death, was called before the parole board yesterday. The board declined parole and he will next appear February 2027, with Michael due to appear in July. Should grief education be taught in our schools? Funeral director John Adams led a national petition in the UK to introduce bereavement education, which was debated in Parliament and is now being shaped into cross-party policy. He's visiting New Zealand this week to share how the changes were achieved. Adams says it's about understanding what grief is and how to support people going through it.
Herald Now Sport. Brought to you by Gold Sport.
England have chased 165 to beat Pakistan by 2 wickets in their Super 8 match at cricket's T20 World Cup, guaranteeing a semi-final spot. New Zealand Rugby's chain of command is changing. The next All Blacks coach will report to a newly created high-performance director rather than the chief executive. Warriors assistant coach Slade Griffin is backing the depth of the club's academy system as they prepare for life without Mitch Barnett beyond this NRL league season.
Herald Now Weather.
Kia ora on what eventually becomes a warm Wednesday, all thanks to this high pressure that keeps things settled over the country. However, this evening, a front brings an increase in rain and wind to the far south. Temperatures in Southland today are warmer than average for the time of year and also warmer than it will be for a while, but the evening is a much wetter affair. While other areas are basking in the warmth, brisk northeasterlies in Christchurch keep temperatures in the low 20s there, though there will be plenty of sunshine. Wednesday is the picture of a summer's day with warm and sunny weather and little wind around. Northerlies develop in Wellington in the evening. That morning cloud around Wairoa and Tairawhiti Gisborne clears away to a fine day. Onshore winds keep temperatures along the east coast cooler than inland. Most areas stay warm and rain-free today, although any light showers that do form are more likely in the afternoon or evening in an easterly flow. Things also take on a slightly more humid feel as the day goes on.
Time is 6 minutes after 8. Great to have your company this morning. Will Labor campaign on rolling back interest deductibility for landlords again? It's an interesting question and one we put to Chris Hipkins, the Labor leader, when he was on the show yesterday. Here's what he had to say. Landlords, should they expect that they will have to help fund some of this? Will you take away the interest deductibility as the previous government did that you were part of?
I've been, listening to feedback from landlords about that, and removing 100% of interest deductibility was, I think, something that we're unlikely to do in that same way again, but we'll set that out again when we set out our fiscal plan.
So joining us is Matt Ball, New Zealand Property Investor Federation, to talk about that answer, which, look, let's be honest, it wasn't saying we are going to hit you, but it wasn't saying no. Matt, what are you reading into it?
Ryan, I think what Labor's going to do is bring in a 50% interest deductibility, and I think that's pretty clear. So you've got what Hipkins said yesterday. He's been saying that we went too far with 100%, but he won't actually give a guarantee they're not going to do it. And then you look back to last year, and Thomas Coughlin interviewed David Parker, and David Parker said we went too far with it, but what we should have done was hit it with 50%, with some cockamamie argument about inflation, this and whatever. I think that's what they'll do. It could be worse. In Britain, they only allow 20% interest deductibility, and Labor might look to them. But at the moment, I'm betting on 50% that they'll campaign on.
Okay, and what would that actually mean for landlords?
Well, Ryan, it's bad for landlords, but it's catastrophic for tenants. What will happen is there'll be two things. One, rents will go up, and two, landlords will start to leave the industry. It's not a passive group of people that have no options. So the immediate reaction is landlords will assess the rentals that they're getting for their properties. A lot of landlords under rent a property. If you have good tenants, you leave them there, you don't put up the rent, and you end up below market rent. So that gives people an immediate action. They can bring their rent up to market level. Now, you asked Hipkins yesterday if he thought that that policy had had an effect on rents. And he said, oh, it's too soon to tell, we don't know. It's not true. If you look at the bond data it's very clear that rents went up under the Labor government. Have a guess, how much do you think rent went up under the last Labor government?
What, 20%?
Try again.
More?
50%. In the 6 years under Chris Hipkins and Jacinda Ardern, rents went up 50%.
Now,
from $400 a week to $600 a week.
Okay. The point is, though, that actually the policy has, I don't think, has an effect on rents. Rents are dictated by supply and demand. So to come out and say either one way it's going to increase rents or the other is going to decrease rents, I think is a misnomer, isn't it?
No, absolutely not. So I've talked to a lot of landlords about what happened last time and what their reaction was. And they were kind of in two camps. There were people like me who foolishly thought, oh, this won't be too bad. And then there were people who thought about it a bit more and acted immediately. So that group put up rents straight away. Where they were renting for below market, they just put the rents up straight away to get ahead of the curve. And then people like me, as we went through the first year when it was 75% interest deductibility, and we were like, oh, actually that hurt a bit. And then at 50% interest deductibility, we started to panic. Rents, there was that pressure to put rents up, and if you can put rents up, you do in that situation, because you're losing a lot of money. And then after that point, when it becomes clear you can't recover your losses through rents, that's when you start looking at your other options, like selling.
Matt, for those who aren't familiar with interest deductibility, because the argument is that owning a home or renting a home shouldn't be a business. It shouldn't be an industry.
It is a business.
Of course it is. I don't agree with this argument, but this is the argument that it shouldn't be an industry because it's people's homes. So you shouldn't make a profit or money out of doing this. So claiming the interest as an expense against the rent that you earn is something, a privilege I suppose landlords have enjoyed. It's a privilege that businesses enjoy. The argument is this shouldn't be a business.
It is a business and you can't get away from that. Every single other business in the country is able to claim their interest costs as an expense. And the argument that landlords shouldn't be allowed to do it is a bit like saying, well, taxi drivers have a car and I can't claim the interest on the loan that I used to pay my car, so taxi drivers shouldn't be allowed either. That just doesn't wash. It is a business. And the important thing on this is, if private landlords didn't exist and provide nearly 600,000 homes to their fellow New Zealanders, who would do it? Would the government do it? No. Private landlords are much more nimble. They're able to provide and meet the demand where it's needed. They're able to build new properties, add bedrooms, upgrade. There's a lot of work goes into it. It's a real business and we deliver for the people of New Zealand.
Matt, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for being with me. Matt Ball, the New Zealand Property Investor Federation. Time and over to you. Hipkins and Labor, tell us your plans. I know you're waiting till after the budget, but now's as good a time as any. 11 minutes after 8, Health New Zealand dished out 7,000 free vapes to smokers last year to try to get them to quit. But fewer than half of them actually gave up smoking. So do vapes actually work to stop smoking, or are we just investing in another harmful substance? Robert Beaglehole is chair of ASH and joins us this morning from Nelson. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show. So that's like a 50% success rate I'm hearing. What's wrong with that?
Well, this is a hugely successful story. This is a good news story. People smoke for the nicotine derived from the toxic ingredients in tobacco. So if you can provide nicotine in a safer form, why not? It helps people stop, as we've heard. It's much less harmful than smoking. And of course, in New Zealand, it's cheaper. So this is a move I would applaud by the Ministry of Health.
So why all these researchers, Auckland University vaping researcher, the opposition obviously has a political bent to this, but let's take politics out of it. Why are there some researchers, academics, who don't agree with what you're saying, Robert?
It's a mystery. But clearly some of the researchers, the one you referred to in particular, is a laboratory-based scientist who has no epidemiological, no public health experience, doesn't have the big picture in mind. One of the other antagonists to this approach clearly doesn't comprehend the evidence. I mean, it's a mystery to why someone would oppose something that is much less harmful, helps people stop, and it's cheaper. And 200,000 people have given up smoking in New Zealand through vaping. We've saved hundreds of lives potentially from vaping. So I applaud what the ministry is doing, and in fact I'd like it to be expanded further, because if you've got a safer option which helps people stop, why wouldn't you distribute it widely?
Well, I quite agree with you, Robert, but as I said, some people don't. Is Ash being paid money by Big Vape? Are you being funded by a Big Vape? Is there an interest here?
Thank you. No, we're totally independent. We're funded from the Heart Foundation and private donations. We are totally independent. No resources from big tobacco, any tobacco, or vaping companies. We base our actions, our views on the evidence, which is incontrovertible. Vaping is good for people who smoke, who want to stop. Of course, we don't want non-smokers to vape, and in New Zealand we're dealing with that. Vaping rates in the ASHIA 10 survey, age 14 and 15, are going down. So we've got it about right in New Zealand. And if we can help another 80,000 people quit over the next year or two, we'll get to the 5% smoke-free level. We're on a winner. This is a great news story.
Robert, in a nutshell, what's your message to your Kelly Burrows and your university vaping researchers and et cetera, the group you described earlier? What's your message to them?
I would like them to talk to us and discuss the evidence. I mean, I believe that these people are rational, and if we have a discussion, if we present the evidence, deal with their concerns, they'll come on board. But there's no point them just shouting their opinions which are not evidence-based. The evidence is solid. The government is doing the right thing. Health New Zealand is doing the right thing. The ministry is doing the right thing. But let's do more of it. There's more to be done. We're not at 5% yet, but we can get there, and we can save thousands and thousands of lives. It's right before.
It's a miracle.
The gold is before it.
It's a miracle, Robert.
We've done very well. It's not a miracle, Ryan. It's because we've promoted.
I'm overcooking it. I'm overcooking it. Yeah, no, true. We haven't quite solved all the broad problems, Robert, but we're getting there. Robert Beaglehole from ASH. Thank you. It's 16 minutes after 8, and we will invite some of those researchers to come on the program to answer some of the questions Robert had, because I think that's interesting. Up next, we cross to Sydney, where we'll talk to the director of MedMap, the latest target of a Kiwi health hack. Was it politically motivated? What did they actually know about it? The next.
Know more of the story with Herald Premium, giving you full access to in-depth news, opinion and analysis, with more world news, business insights, and investigative reports from our world-class team of journalists. Plus subscriber-only functionality to comment on stories, access newspaper e-editions, gift articles, and enjoy crosswords and puzzles. Subscribe now to Herald Premium.
When building for investment, it's important to find a team that you can trust.
We decided to build with GJs because of the good quality that they always provide us.
They help us throughout the whole process of getting the resource consent to the building consent, and their contracts are very easy to understand. We have built 4 houses with GJ Gardeners, and it's just easier every time we work with them.
I'll definitely recommend GJs to all of my friends and family.
If you're thinking of building, choose the builder you'll want to build with time and time again.
Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, Kaylee Bell, Jelly Roll, Megan Moroney, Chris Stapleton. All the country stars have come to play on the all-new iHeart Country NZ. Your new home for country is iHeart Country NZ.
$18 minutes after 8, returning to the MedMap hack now, which saw some patients who were still alive declared dead. Others had their names changed to Charlie Kirk, and even David Seymour, our Deputy Prime Minister. MedMap is used in aged care, disability and hospice. It helps manage patients' medication. Jeffrey Sayer is the Director of MedMap, joins us live this morning. Jeffrey, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
Do you yet know the motivation for this? We had an expert on who said it could be political. Do you know yet why?
No, we don't know why, what the motivation is. We're not intimate with the motivation. to be clear, our focus is not politicising this incident. We're very focused on restoring the systems so that we can help providers who care for people to be able to do that. So we're very focused on that. We don't want to be using this as a platform for political agitation. Our focus is clearly on restoring the systems, getting people back up and running, getting people informed, getting people support, and working through those processes.
Jeffrey, you haven't, as the company hasn't been contacted by whoever did this, you haven't had a ransom?
No, we've obviously engaged experts, forensic experts, cyber experts, all sorts of experts, including New Zealand government agencies. We haven't received anything, we haven't seen anything in that sense. And as I said earlier, it's really important that we're just focusing on correcting the wrong that's been created and getting our systems back up and running again.
Jeffrey, has any patient details been taken or just changed?
Well, we've got a deep forensic looking into this. We clearly know that patients' records have been changed, and it's in that demographic area around names, addresses, date of birth, those types of things. So we're still deep into the analysis. Obviously, you've got to get this right. You can't be misinforming people, particularly when the identities have been changed. So we've got to actually rebuild back up the identity of those who have been affected so that we can then get a sense of where these things have gone. This is not, I don't want to say classic ransomware. It's not a ransomware in that sense. It's been used legitimate credentials, which we suspect have been stolen, so to speak, has come in through a legitimate means and made these changes. So it doesn't fit the classic ransomware, I've got your data, I know these people scenario at this stage, but we're still working through all that.
So someone's legitimate login details, so username and password, have been used in order to access your systems?
Correct. So they've used a credentialed individual, but
Right.
we obviously suspect that credentials of that, so those individuals' credentials have been compromised somewhere.
Right, and do you know who that individual is?
We're working through, because obviously a lot of the detail around these things is the sophistication of people with bad intent, obviously do all sorts of things to cover their tracks. So we want to be really clear on that. We've obviously involved New Zealand Police and Privacy Commissioner, a whole bunch of organisations, so that even if we do find and work out who that is, we can give that person support.
Jeffrey, give us an idea how many people work for MedMap? How long is that potential list of people who would have a username and a password?
We have, as you described quite aptly at the start, we have a lot of people across the sector using MedMap. Right? You're talking about thousands of providers, thousands of carers across lots of facilities across New Zealand. Okay?
And can they all log in and change details, even for patients for which they are not responsible?
This is the way it normally works is you work with your patients. This individual has done something on top of that, okay? But they've clearly got into the walls, so to speak, and made those changes.
Right. So how many username and password? Thousands we're talking potentially.
We're talking about there's a lot of people. We obviously have logging and sophisticated logging, which is what the forensics team are going through. That logging is being obviously to track the behaviour and understanding what the bad actor has done. But more importantly, we're using that logging to rebuild those identities of those individuals so that we can restore those systems.
Jeffrey, how many individuals are we talking about whose details have been changed?
We are still working through this. You have to appreciate when the identities have been changed and those sorts of things, we've got to get the numbers right. We do not want to give false information. We do not want to give inaccurate information.
Roughly? Hundreds, thousands?
We are working through it. We have to work through patient by patient, facility by facility. We have to understand what has happened. Is this patient still a legitimate resident? There's a whole bunch of things we have to work through. So our goal is to work at the facility level and understand for each facility so we can work with those facilities so that they can inform people who may be affected, but we've got to confirm that these people are actual real people.
This is the problem, and where I want to finish with you, Jeffrey. If someone's name has been changed and someone's date of birth has been changed, and you've got a list of the medications that these often elderly people, vulnerable people need to take. How do you even know who they really are?
Yeah, so let's be clear about this, Ryan. So when the incident came to our attention on Sunday, we took the system offline, okay? So at that point, we notified all our users, and all users would have moved into their way that they would handle an incident like this. They moved to alternate or manual processes, okay? So care's still going. Okay, let's be clear, care's still going. We have not reinstated the system so that people aren't using questionable data as you aptly described, okay? What we can do with the logging, we obviously do backups and failovers and disaster recovery. We can start to see when those changes start to happen, but there's real changes happening as well with legitimate stuff. So we've got to make sure we're looking at nefarious activity versus legitimate activity. So we are working through those processes to do that, but to be supporting the carers out there. They're doing a great job as they do every day, continuing providing care.
Jeffrey, when was the last time you had your systems checked for, whether they could be penetrated?
We do routine requirements as part of a whole bunch of scenarios. We're obviously drilling through that as we speak.
Do you know when the last time was?
I would be misrepresenting if I quoted a date to you, exact date.
In the last month? I mean, you're the director of MedMap. You must know at this stage the breach was Sunday, when the last time you had a checkup was.
I would have to come back to you with that answer, Ryan.
You don't know at this point, Jeffrey?
We do a lot of variations of various security testing and monitoring. I would have to go back and describe exactly what we did on what exact dates.
Okay, I appreciate your time. We have to leave it there. Jeffrey Sayer, who's the director of MedMap, this morning with us live from Sydney, 25 minutes after 8. Let's go now to our panel to talk the big stories of the day. Laura Greaves, political commentator, Mark Kreisel, the Elephant Vodcast co-host. Good morning.
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 Good to see you both. Geez, do you trust where your health data's going these days, Mark?
Yeah, I do, I guess, but it doesn't worry me overly. I don't really mind. Sorry if I move at the moment. My medical data might say I've got galloping flatulence, but it's the chair. But I don't. I'm not too worried about my stuff getting out. I'm kind of relaxed, and I kind of think people have reached a point where you know that a lot of your stuff that goes online could quite easily be hacked at some time. I think we're starting to realise that's a real thing.
Doesn't mean you want it out there, though, does it?
I'm pretty worried about it. Like, my medical records are pretty boring. There's some mental health stuff. I mean, I'm a millennial, whatever. We've all got that stuff. But, whatever. But it's like, I do know people who do have the more sensitive files, like when, maybe, there's cases of, sexual assault between family members and those sorts of bits and pieces. And that was, of course, in the press around the Manage My Health data leak, whatever it was, the hack then. So there are people that do have those really sensitive files, and I mean, that's just heartbreaking. That's going to actually re-traumatise a lot of people, where they actually get a visceral trauma reaction. So we've got to kind of think of that group, and also think of the scammers, because I know of someone who got a text the other day, a cancer survivor who got a text the other day about genetic testing, and they were asking me, as someone who's a bit more in data politics, do a lot of research around data, is this real? What do I need to do? And people do need to be really wary of scams, especially some older people, and just kind of thinking about information literacy is kind of important as to who could be a scammer, and just be sus. Be sus.
Yeah.
Is the message.
It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very concerning.
But I don't know if there's any protection whatsoever at the moment. It seems like everything is able to be cracked. One of the things that worries me is so much of what we have is up in the cloud. And that seems to be susceptible to all sorts of things, a terrorism attack or a targeted cyber attack from another unfriendly country. And we put so much reliance on those things. If they ever went away, how are we going to cope with any of that?
But sometimes actually our data going overseas is safer than it being here, though, because if you look at somewhere like Europe, they have proper regulatory regime.
Yes.
Perhaps a bit intense for a little place like us, but proper regime, proper fines. Here it's 10 grand.
Yeah, it's outrageous, but it sounds like the government's going to do something. Well, that's a weird angle.
They do something.
What is that? Anyway, it's the hackers. They're here. Anyway, so
hacking your angles.
Hacking my angles. I'm like, that's not my good side, guys. Anyway, let's talk about Luxon, because we're going to do something fun. and the outfit. Have you guys seen this story?
Yes,
So this
seen the
is a
outfit.
story, and this is what he wore to the Nelson Art Deco Festival, Katie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In Nelson. And so that's what Key wore on the
I love
left.
that outfit, that cracks me up.
You know, he goes a Hundy, and this is what Jacinda Ardern wore.
Yes,
And then some people are upset that this is the effort of our Prime Minister. Laura,
it's Casual Fridays, isn't it? He can't stop being the corporate guy. It's Casual Fridays.
He's ripping the silver fern, though.
Yeah, but that's kind of corporate almost, isn't it?
Thing is, I was talking to Katie about this morning. If he went the other way, imagine the grief he'd get for that too.
But that's fun though, going the other way. Like, look at John Key's outfit. That's an excellent outfit.
It
I
is.
mean, and people were really proud of it. I remember staying in an Airbnb down there, and there being a photo of John Key in his Art Deco outfit in the Airbnb. Like, it's part of the culture there, you know, like to dress up. So yeah, I've just always kind of respected how hilarious his little outfit was, and it's super fun. Like, just have fun.
There is a danger you can overdo it as well. I remember going to a party dressed as Willie Nelson, and my wife was David Bowie with off Aladdin Sane, and we walked in and we were so far over the top. So if you go in a little bit, you can always add to it. Yeah. But if you go in over the top, there's nowhere else to go.
And you've also, like with Key, if you're really popular already, you have the confidence to do something like that, don't you?
Yeah, he's very good at that.
You know?
Just a silly guy.
Whereas if you're
he's struggling, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's struggling in popularity, and I guess wouldn't matter what he did, he's going to cop it.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Chippy would look cute in a little outfit like John Key's. He would trade it off.
With
Wouldn't
the
he?
dirty
When he'd go
dogs?
around
He would.
He'd put his little hat on and he'd run around, wouldn't he? Surely he would.
Yeah, he would.
Surely.
Finally, vaping. We just spoke to Robert Beaglehole about this, but the vaping, I mean, it's good because it's a good story, Robert says, because vaping is better for you than smoking. So if you don't vape, don't start. But if you smoke, then vaping's better. And if half of smokers switch to vaping, that's a good thing.
I'm still sus about the tobacco lobby. That's my position on this. Still sus about that. Like, what are they doing? How are they getting in there? I mean, we had the Casey Costello story, what was it, almost 2 years ago? And we haven't really gone back to it. So what have they been doing with their millions of dollars of government relations money in the meantime?
Yeah, but we can't argue. I mean, yes, that is one thing, but we need to put that to a side and
Okay.
say this is Robert Beaglehole, respected, trusted, famous, not name written on a building in Victoria, not funded by Big Tobacco, saying this. So I think we can walk and chew gum.
I mean, you've got to be careful. The problem is that we've got a lot of young people who've never smoked picking up vapes, and we have the highest vaping rate in the world, which is unbelievable.
Do we?
Yeah, I mean, we've just in America and Mexico and places like that a couple of months ago, you hardly see anybody vaping. When you come back to New Zealand,
Yeah, but they're all on the darts, which is
no,
worse.
they're not. They're not. They're not.
What, no one in America or Mexico
No, I didn't
smokes?
say no one, but you don't see very many people doing it. But I think there's a danger. We don't know what the consequences of vaping are going to be. It's too early in the game. And I mean, we've had those situations. Remember party drugs, the party pills and things like that? They brought all that stuff up, and then we had that fallout with that horrendous fake marijuana and all the death.
That's right.
So I think you do have to be a little bit careful. I mean, I know, are we just replacing one addiction for another and we don't know what the consequences of that'll be?
Yeah, true. Hey, good to see you both this morning. Thanks for being with me. That's our panel for this morning. Mark Kreisel, the Elephant Vodcast co-host, and Lara Greaves, political commentator. It is 28 away from 9. Here's Neva.
Herald Now News, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Multiple cybersecurity teams are working to investigate the possible hack of another medication platform. MedMap is widely used across New Zealand, particularly in aged care, disability, hospice and community health. MedMap Director Jeffrey Sayer says unauthorised activity caused incorrect changes to some patients' demographic records. Melanoma New Zealand wants the government to take its treatment announcement a step further and commit to better screening. Pharmac's proposing to expand access to nivolumab and ipilimumab for people with stage 3B and 4 melanoma from May 1st. Melanoma NZ's Dr. Sonia Bodley says it's good news, but our high skin cancer rates shows targeted national early detection screenings are needed, and she's urging all political parties to come together and recognise the need for a program and to scope out possibilities for making it happen. After 6 months of negotiations, the government's managed to strike a pay deal with primary principals. A ballot of 1,300 NZEI members returned a majority in favour. Principals will get a cumulative 2.5% immediate pay rise and another 2.1% next year. NZEI negotiation team member Stephen Lethbridge says that the benefits will flow on to children. Meanwhile, more than 12,000 allied health workers have struck a deal with Health NZ for a new collective agreement. The workers, spanning physio and occupational therapists, social workers and scientists, will receive a 2.5% pay rise backdated to December and another 2% late this year. The agreement also includes a $500 lump sum and a contractual commitment to advertise vacancies. One of two brothers jailed for murdering Rotorua toddler Nia Glassie will remain behind bars for at least another year. The 3-year-old died in 2007 after months of abuse and torture, including being put in a dryer and spun on a clothesline. Michael and Wedimu Curtis were found guilty of murder and jailed for life with 17 years non-parole. Wedimu, who was 17 at the time of Nia's death, was called before the parole board yesterday. The board declined parole and he will next appear February 2027, with Michael due to appear in July. Should grief education be taught in our schools? Funeral director John Adams led a national petition in the UK to introduce bereavement education, which was debated in Parliament and is now being shaped into cross-party policy. He's visiting New Zealand this week to share how the changes were achieved. Adams says it's about understanding what grief is and how to support people going through it.
Herald Now Sport, brought to you by Gold Sport.
England have chased 165 to beat Pakistan by 2 wickets in their Super 8 match at cricket's T20 World Cup, guaranteeing a semi-final spot. New Zealand Rugby's chain of command is changing. The next All Blacks coach will report to a newly created high-performance director rather than the chief executive. Warriors assistant coach Slade Griffin is backing the depth of the club's academy system as they prepare for life without Mitch Barnett beyond this NRL league season.
Herald Now Weather.
Kia ora on what eventually becomes a warm Wednesday, all thanks to this high pressure that keeps things settled over the country. However, this evening, a front brings an increase in rain and wind to the far south. Temperatures in Southland today are warmer than average for the time of year and also warmer than it will be for a while, but the evening is a much wetter affair. While other areas are basking in the warmth, brisk northeasterlies in Christchurch keep temperatures in the low 20s there, though there will be plenty of sunshine. Wednesday is the picture of a summer's day with warm and sunny weather and little wind around. Northerlies develop in Wellington in the evening. That morning cloud around Wairoa and Tairawhiti Gisborne clears away to a fine day. Onshore winds keep temperatures along the east coast cooler than inland. Most areas stay warm and rain-free today, although any light showers that do form are more likely in the afternoon or evening in an easterly flow. Things also take on a slightly more humid feel as the day goes on.
Welcome back. The BAFTA's Tourette's N-word incident is still making waves online, and one teen back here has spoken out about it. Jenny Mortimer, Chief Entertainment Reporter for the Herald, is with us and spoken to that teen. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning.
Yeah, it was a bit of a moment yesterday, especially having to explain the story. That was
absolutely
hard enough, but I can't imagine what it would be like for someone who actually has Tourette's to look at that and then have everyone talk about it.
Yes, well, I guess a lot of the social media commentary was coming from people who don't have the lived experience of Tourette's. And so I went and spoke to Oliver Dawson, who's an incredible 20-year-old. He's a tutor, he's a student, he's a mentor for young people with Tourette's. And he kind of explained exactly what that moment is actually like and how something like that occurs when you have Tourette's. So the big thing with Tourette's that is so key for everyone to understand is involuntary. It's involuntary. And they go into a room, and any room that gives them a sense of anxiety or my tic might not be welcome here will bring it out even more, and the worst possible thing that you could say will likely come out if your tic presents. Now, the tic that we saw from John at the BAFTAs is a swear tic, which is actually quite rare in Tourette's. Only 10% of people with Tourette's have the verbal swearing tics. So the thing that he was really cautious of people understanding is that this is such a small representation of what Tourette's is. And once you understand the involuntary nature and the fact that Tourette's is so much more than this one swearing tic that everyone associates it with, you kind of better understand the experience of somebody living with it. So he was incredible to talk to. He was saying that he works as a tutor and his current tic, because they change all the time, is pulling the finger. And so he tutors little kids, and he said he'll just be sitting there and totally involuntary just flips the bird to an 8-year-old. So
does he see the funny side in it?
Of course.
Yeah, right.
He's
Okay, good.
But then his whole thing is, clearly I don't want to do that.
No.
But my brain goes, don't do it. It's an 8-year-old, probably don't do it. And then before he knows it, it's done. And that's how Tourette's works. It's totally involuntary, and the action happens before your brain has a chance to comprehend it.
Now, Rob Reiner, this is the son of the murdered Hollywood director. He has pled not guilty.
Yes, so his son Nick has pled not guilty to the murders. He was arrested 6 hours after his parents were killed. And he's been being held in court. He appeared before court for the second time, and he entered his plea of not guilty. At the moment, the autopsies are still being finished, but he has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder at this stage.
All right, Jenny, thank you very much for the update. As always, Jenny Mortimer, who is our entertainment chief reporter, I should say, for the Herald. Don't want to mislabel you there, Jenny. 20 away from 9. Right, coming up next, Garth is back with the latest in business, and another power company revealing its half-year results this morning. Back in a jiffy.
Stop paying the waiting tax. The money you could miss out on by delaying the start of your investment journey. Up your tempo with Tempo, the guided investment app that helps you get started. Don't delay because you don't think you have enough time, money, or know-how. All you need is a goal, and our guidance will help with the rest. You can do it. We can help. Here's how. Download Tempo now.
Hip-hop and R&B. Flavor.
Here she is. How's the business going?
Good, actually. We just switched to 2 degrees. Well, we tested the networks and couldn't see any difference. But 2 degrees has the most satisfied customers. With Flex, we get instant control of phone plans, data usage, and cost center reporting. And they're the fastest growing business network.
Can I have what she's having?
Ready?
One Roof Property. Love where you live.
The New Zealand Herald. News worth knowing.
18 away from 9, returning to our top story this morning about what an expert told us seems to be a politically motivated hack, or a political hack into some health information from a private business called MedMap. Well, the Labour Party MP Aisha Verrall will soon present a petition to Parliament calling for stronger enforcement powers and penalties for privacy breaches. It comes after not only this most recent hack, but the hack from 2 months ago over My Health. Aisha Verrall is that Labour MP and joins us now. Aisha, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
Good to have you on. Now, I wanted to get you on because I heard about this petition and that you were going to be the one presenting it to Parliament.
Well, receiving it, to be clear, it's from a member of the public, yeah.
Right.
But it's a good petition, and I think deserves to be put in front of a committee and have a proper hearing.
100% agree with you. What do you think the penalty, at the moment, the penalty seems to be 10 grand, maybe you'll get some costs. What should it be? How hard do we need to go here?
Yeah. I think New Zealanders are incredibly distressed hearing about, some of them are impacted by these repeated privacy breaches. And for all of us, it compromises the trust we can have in our health information being held securely. So there does need to be more done. At the moment, New Zealand's Privacy Commissioner has been calling for stronger penalties for when these breaches occur, so that there's a real disincentive on firms to have lax processes if that is found to be the case. There's also more that the government can do to prevent these sorts of things happening again, and that was the advice that the Labour government received following the Waikato cyber attack. That government also has a really strong role to play in strengthening its own processes, but also supporting cybersecurity to be improved in the private sector.
Do you think, because companies ask for our details all the time, which annoys me no end, why do you, if I go and get a haircut, why do you need my address? Don't you think we should have laws that sort of scare them enough to put them off asking for our details in the first place? Because it seems to me that this stuff is just going to keep on happening and keep on happening.
Look, I haven't given thought to that particular angle, Ryan, but there is no way to run a health system in the modern age without collecting people's details, and that means we have to be able to have trust in the processes. I can't imagine providing a health service where we don't get to where those details aren't collected. So in a sense, we just have to have really strong minimum standards around the use and security of people's personal information.
This petition that you will be receiving on standards and on enforcement, that sort of thing, what exactly is that calling for? Do you know?
Yeah, it is about the penalties, but that has been a long run issue, and also the Privacy Commissioner has been calling for it for some time, and that's called I believe a civil penalties regime. And that would mean that if you were a company director in one of these firms that's using people's health information, you'd need to be aware that there would be greater penalties to the company if you were found to be in breach. So it's a disincentive.
I sure appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for being with me. That's Aisha Verrill from Labour. 14 minutes away from 9. Have you ever been made redundant? How do you bounce back or pivot, as the buzzword seems to be these days, from a redundancy? Craig McAlpine is from My Career Brand and joins us live this morning. Craig, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
Have you ever had to pivot? You know, this word, everyone loves a buzzword, don't they? But have you ever had to pivot?
I'm probably a prime example. 3 times I've had my role disestablished. And each time I've drawn on my experience and pivoted with that.
To a completely different industry or a different role or what?
Yes, or a tangential industry, but one where I've been able to bring my strengths and skills and experience to be able to address the organisation's needs.
So what sort of advice would you give to people who might be in this position?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think there's 3 things you really need to think about when you're having your role disestablished. Is 1, understand that it's not about you. The organisation has had to pivot themselves, often because they've changed technology, product sets, clients and so on. Secondly is have your story right. Okay, so understand when you're having a conversation with a recruiter or a hiring manager, what happened in your organisation, why your role was disestablished and what you want to do next. And then understand what their organisation or the organisation that you're interviewing with needs. So have your value proposition aligned to that.
Craig, you say it's not about you, but sometimes, sometimes you look around and you suspect. If everyone gets fired, I get it. But if there's just 1 or 2 and everyone's like, oh, you know who it is, it's Jill. Ooh. And you can't, Jill might just be a bit bad at her job.
What I would prefer to say with that is that Jill's alignment with the role that is actually required in that organisation is not necessarily where Jill needs to be. So that in itself is an indicator to Jill on what she could be doing next. So for example, I had a client come to me several years ago saying he wanted to be in first level support. he was wanting a role in first level support. He just had his role disestablished. What did he think was going to happen the next time around?
Yeah.
So think really carefully. Yes, I agree with you. Sometimes it can be about the person, but generally we do find that it is about the role rather than the person.
What about retraining? What advice do you give people about retraining into a different role or a different industry?
Yes, and I wrote a post a couple of weeks ago about this, and it's on LinkedIn, and it was about making sure that you understand what the sector needs are, understand what is required out there. The way I look at it is that your employment is a business. You just happen to have one client. Most businesses will understand what their client needs are, and they'll resource themselves effectively for that. So look at who your clients will be, your employers, and then go out looking for how you're going to resource yourself with training.
Craig, what's the popular pivot job at the moment? What's everyone wanting to do or wanting to pivot towards?
It's a really good question. We're seeing an uplift in most sectors now, but I think on front of mind for most people is how am I going to use AI? So how is my role being impacted by AI, and how do I address that? If they're not thinking about that, then they should be.
Appreciate your time this morning as always, Craig. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Craig McAlpine with us, My Career Brand. Time is 10 away from 9. Quick break, back with Garth in a sec.
Term deposit rates are falling, but your returns shouldn't. Speak to a Forsyth Barr investment advisor about alternative strategies, their benefits and risks, and how they can help you meet your investment goals. Forsyth Barr, investment advice.
A lot of radio shows like to say they're with you in the morning. Here at The Hits, we like to go the extra mile.
Not all of us get to experience this.
Come on, you're running late.
It's going to be a great day today, babes. I can feel it. Spit. You see, when we say we're with you, we actually mean it.
Oh, don't forget Sarah, you've got social netball tonight. And Mark's working late again.
Jono and Ben with you in the morning and anytime on iHeartRadio. On The Hits.
Hey, Dad.
What's up? What's up?
You know that's from the 90s, right?
So's this fuel price. 6 cents off per litre on the gallop, even on top of discount day.
That's what's up.
Download the gallop. What's up?
Welcome back. Time to talk business thanks to our partners Forsyth Barr. Meridian Energy is reporting half-year earnings this morning. Garth Bray, host to Herald Now Business across it. Garth, what have they said?
Mother Nature provided record wind generation, second best lake inflows on record, and they are very much tied to those sort of renewables. So they're reporting a net profit after tax of $227 million compared to a net loss in the previous comparable period, you know, the first half of last year of $121 million. So big turnaround for them there, big rebound. And obviously they've got a lot of projects in the pipeline as well. I think they're working on about 7 between now and 2030 for new generation. Big increase in energy margin as well for them, 59% lift because of all that extra generation. And they're not the only one reporting results though today as well. EBOS has just dropped some numbers as well. That's a pets, basically pet care, animal care, and medicine, both here and in Australia, and they have been on a bit of a turnaround journey. They're talking about, I think, if I just quickly get to their results there, that they were looking at 3.2% increase in their EBITDA to 300 million. And they're basically saying, look, we've got some good opportunities coming from the acquisition of pharmacy network and animal care and SVS, which was a sort of a vet products business here in New Zealand as well. And then the last one I wanted to tell you about was Christchurch Airport, because they are reporting some great numbers, about 7% increase in passengers, 15% increase in international passengers, which is great news if you're getting sort of huge numbers of tourists coming on through. So they're talking about total revenue up about 10% and a net profit after tax of 24%. Good news for the good people of Christchurch who own them, basically.
Who own it.
Yeah.
Great, and that's full year, isn't it?
That's a full year for them, and so they're saying, look, we're doing really, really well. Little note as well, Golden Bay Air, further north, operates out of Takaka, the first to get $1.1 million loan to help recapitalise and so on, out of that $30 million the government said to help regional airlines sort of get up and get running.
Brilliant, Garth, thank you. That's Garth Bray, host of Herald Now Business. We talk business every day thanks to our partners, Forsyth Bar. The MedMap hack is the second serious attack on patient data in 2 months, and now there are calls for our government to do something about it. In Australia, businesses that breach privacy rules can be fined up to $50 million. Here in New Zealand, it's next to nothing. Earlier, I was joined by cybersecurity expert Adam Burns, and I started off by asking him if this hack is about money or politics.
Potentially a political hacktivist attack. There's been no mention of ransom demand. There's just been, as you said, patient names being changed to Charlie Kirk. So with that being a conservative, political name, it's potentially a political statement or, an attack from some hacktivist group. It's just, a little bit different to what we normally see.
How do you tell who's done it? Is it only if they do put out a ransom, or can you go through the back door and find out?
Generally, the only way to find out who it was is if they declare the hack themselves, and they hide behind pseudonyms. So we never really know who or where the attack came from, unless, of course, the target had some good logging switched on. But even if that's turned on, these attacks are often done behind VPNs. So tracing them is very, very difficult.
Adam, that seems crazy to me that in 2026 someone can hack into what is very personal information, important information. This is about old people and medicine. Yeah. How can that happen and we have no idea?
From my lens, I'm seeing a similar pattern repeat, and that is, if you think about the internet, it was designed a long time ago. It was built on trust. That trust is now being exploited, and it's a lot easier to exploit that now with AI. If a hacker wanted to launch a phishing campaign or an impersonation campaign, they would have had to canvass a business for a couple of weeks, figure out who the main staff are, where they're traveling, things like that. Now that can be done in the click of a button. There is literally ChatGPT for hackers now, so these types of attacks are trivial.
So what could have taken you weeks or months, AI now allows you to do in hours or minutes?
Yeah, there are applications like ChatGPT designed specifically for this purpose.
Who designed them?
I don't know, but if you look up Xanthorox, that starts with an X, Xanthorox, you can just go to their website and look at the tool as if it was a standard SaaS application that you were looking to purchase. It's bizarre.
It's mind-blowing.
We live in.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so basically what you're saying is this is going to happen more and more. I mean, we had our biggest data breach just 2 months ago. Now we've got another one in health.
Yeah.
So you're obviously an expert in this field. What do you do with your private information? How do you protect yourself?
So I use a password manager, so I actually don't have any idea what passwords are for anything that I log into, and I MFA everything as well. So even if someone gets my password, they still need my device for the second factor authentication. So my advice to people would be, don't use the same password, multi-factor everything, use a password manager if you can. If anyone from the health industry contacts you via email or phone, don't trust that is who they say they are. Find out where they're calling from and call them back. Just be very, very cautious of any comms from anywhere, really. Because it is the Wild West out there.
Adam, if the fine, I'm told that there is no real fine in New Zealand. In Australia, they have much harsher penalties. And there's a petition that's been started here, and I wholeheartedly support whatever petition we need to. But is Is it your opinion we will never really get the hackers? Like, let's give up, that ship sailed. But do you think we should have harsher penalties for people who are asking for our data?
100%. I think the current fine of $10,000 is nowhere enough of a deterrent to put people off. And if someone does get fined, there's not much of a deterrent for them to not pick it up and do it again, because the fine is so small. It's basically, like you say, a slap on the wrist. We need to increase the powers of the OPC and raise these fines to that of overseas, where we're way behind in this area.
That was Adam Burns, cybersecurity expert, on the MedMap hack a little earlier in the program this morning. Right, it is coming up to 9 o'clock now. Very quick update on oil for you, because we've been tracking the price. Obviously, Trump's making some threats against Iran. That's having an effect as the traders are weighing up disruption to oil markets and the oil tankers as well. So oil prices reached a 7-month high overnight. I just had a look. They're down to just under $71 US a barrel for Brent crude. They did touch as high as $72.50 a barrel overnight. That's the highest level since July of last year. US crude futures also rose to $67.28 a barrel. Everybody's just obviously a little bit worried about that. And on that, when will we know what Trump's going to do? Well, apparently that all depends on Witkoff and Kushner. Jared Kushner, of course, Trump's son-in-law, and Witkoff, his special envoy. Those two dudes just float around the earth solving all of Trump's problems. Remember, they were in Gaza. They had a big job there. Also, they've been in Moscow trying to deal with Ukraine. They've also been trying to deal with Iran. And apparently, Trump is just waiting for their word on how keen or not keen the Iranians are on a nuclear deal before deciding whether to go in guns blazing. Time is 9 o'clock. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow from 7 o'clock for more news. In the meantime, head to nzherald.co.nz.